Hello, je suis Léna, passionnée de bien-être, mieux vivre et spiritualité. J'ai créé ce podcast pour faire connaître au plus grand nombre des méthodes alternatives pour aller mieux, que ce soit physiquement ou mentalement. Quels que soient vos problèmes, quelles que soient vos croyances, restons ouverts, restons curieux et testons. Okay. Hello, Florentin.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here today. I'm excited to talk with you about something that is very special to me and to you, astral traveling.
Yeah.
So you're gonna tell us a bit about yourself because before becoming an expert on that subject, you were working on special effects in movies, right?
Right. Yeah. So I was working with visual effects for Hollywood movies for over 10 years, and it was a very interesting experience to learn how to recreate reality using a computer. And so, for a long period of time, I've been spending a lot of months and years my time working as a nerd, creating those kind of shiny effects you would see in a Hollywood movie like Iron Man 2 or Man of Steel, making them fly, making them shoot lasers through their eyes, and all of these kind of superhero powers that they have. I would work on creating that. And it's interesting that now I'm working with real life superheroes, making them fly and teleport and these kind of things in real life.
Yeah, so before speaking about your experience, for those who don't know what it is, how can you explain astral traveling or astral AP?
Well, the best way I can describe it is to compare it to something that people are very familiar with, which is the internet. Everyone has access to this web, this internet that we are connected to with our phones, with our computers, and I think in the past it would have been difficult to describe what I'm going to describe now. But now, because we have these phones that are wirelessly connected to each other, you can send a message, from your phone that's in the air here in my hand, to another phone. We understand that there is this way of invisible communication that can take place. And we understand the concept that there are things moving around us right now in the air that we cannot see with our eyes. So we're starting to understand that there are real things happening all around us that we cannot see, that we cannot detect with our five senses that our physical body has, but they're happening. And so with astral projection, it's a bit like kind of the same. Like we are able to access this web of information, this web of conscious information. Everything is consciousness. You can call it the matrix, you can call it consciousness, where everything that is happening or has happened or will probably happen exists in this field, in this, you can call it also the quantum field, this information field. And with astral projection and these kind of practices, we're able to get in a state where we can access the information that's there in the same way that you can access information with your phone that we've just created a couple of years ago. We created this device that's so high tech a couple of years ago, right? Imagine how old the human body is and how advanced it is. Of course, we have wireless communication. Of course, we can do things that that are greater than these phones that we just created, right? And so with astral projection, you're able to project your consciousness into different places, and you can download information to yourself as a phone can do. Download information, download images or videos or these kind of things, and that's called remote viewing. But with astral projection, it's a form of travel where you're able to travel with your consciousness outside of your physical body to another place. And it can be another place within your neighborhood. You can be traveling around your neighborhood, flying around your area, or you can go into a different dimension altogether, where you would be meeting a whole different world that it doesn't even exist on Earth. It might be in a different galaxy or a different frequency of reality. Because I think we tend to think of when we think of like different species of aliens and these kind of things existing. We think about them living in a different planet, that we have to travel there with a spaceship to get there. But there's a lot of aliens and other beings that are all around us in different frequencies of reality. And I think that's something that is really exciting, because you can access those other frequencies using astral projection. Because what you're doing is that you're shifting your frequency. Your consciousness is right now focused on this physical dimension, and we're able to perceive this physical dimension in the same way that a radio can perceive a specific channel. And then a radio can shift its frequency and perceive a different channel. And we can do the same. We can shift our frequency and perceive a different reality altogether. And they're all happening in the same space. They're all around us, but we're just shifting our perception to be able to see just one of them while we're exploring.
Yeah,
And
totally.
the shift happens, in an instant, and we're from being here to being in a different place altogether. We don't have to take a spaceship to travel there. We can just shift our frequency. And so that's what you can do with astral projection. You can enter these different realms, and you can gain access to information that you wouldn't normally have access to in the physical realm.
Mm. And how AP is different from a near-death experience?
Mm. So near-death experiences is when someone is having a very difficult time in their body, either that they're just been through an accident, car crash, or maybe something's just happening to their physical body that ejects them out of their body, so they cannot no longer be present in their body. And this is happening so much right now. There's a lot of reports of people having out-of-body experiences, people that have nothing to do with this practice or don't have any beliefs about anything in this area. They suddenly find themselves out of their bodies, and they cannot explain how it's possible. They're just there, and they're usually seeing what's happening around them. They can report afterwards seeing how the paramedics came and they took them out of the car, and they remember their faces of the paramedics, their names, and a bunch of information that they wouldn't have known in that state.
But
and
it's
so it's
it's the consciousness too. It's getting back of the body, getting out of the body.
yes,
So
the
it's the same
consciousness.
principle of the AP.
Yes, it's the same principle, but obviously this is not a wanted situation. When it happens, it's not something that you're not. For the most part, people are not trying to have a near-death experience. It's something bad happens to their body, and this is why they are having the experience. And then with astral projection, it's usually a thing that people do willingly. They want to have the out-of-body experience, and you can have that out-of-body experience without having to go through death or near death.
Exactly.
There's other ways of doing it, which is not painful or anything like that.
But I don't know if it's if there are more and more persons who are going to do to experience a near-death experience, because I think it always has been, but maybe it was not. It was very like considered a shame thing. Something to hide, to hide. So because, for example, I lived in a little village when I was a young person, and my neighbor experienced it. But I only heard about it 5 years ago from my dad. It was
Yeah,
very a shameful experience for her. She didn't know what it was.
right. Yeah, it's because we have belief systems in our society that doesn't support these other realities or these other experiences.
Yeah.
And so then you don't want to share with people, because they will just put you in one of those boxes, like either you're crazy or you're making things up, you're imagining things. If you think no one believes you, it's you probably just keep it for yourself. And it's I think that's something that's coming that's slowly disappearing more and more as people are opening up and talking about these things. And as you can find so much information about it online now, you become used to, you may be in that village, there was just her that had that experience. But when she goes online and searches for other people that have had similar experiences, she finds like thousands of people talking about the same things, you suddenly don't feel alone and crazy about it. You feel like, oh, okay, so this is something that isn't just happened to me. It's happening to more people. Look, all of these people
Mm.
having some
But
experience.
you know, for her, it was like 50 years ago. So yeah, there was only a book maybe about that, but there was no internet. So yeah, it's kind of funny. And it's great to live, you know, in this period of time because we have so much information of Dr. Google. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, another thing that's really common is that people have spontaneous out of body experiences, astral
yes, that
projection.
was my case.
Yeah, right.
I
So
didn't ask
and
for it.
exactly. And when that happened 50 years ago, that was really scary because there were no internet to look at and sort of see if this was normal. So people would normally think that they're crazy or that something is wrong with them because no one else is having them usually. It's a few, you know, it's a small percentage of people that have them spontaneously, that remembers them, that have it in that way. And it freaks people out if you don't know what it is. And now more and more people understand that you know, and start to understand more about what it is,
Yeah.
and that's really good to see. And I hope to see it even more in the future, where people are
Mm.
able to.
You're working on it, so it
I'm
should be
working on
fine.
it.
So we're going to talk about your AP experience. So do you remember the first time you experienced astral travel? Was it spontaneous? Were you young, or did it happen with the help of someone?
So I've had lucid dreams in the past, spontaneous lucid dreams, where I was flying and I was doing different cool things, but I never had an astral projection
For those who don't
until.
know, can you explain what is lucid dreaming? Because maybe they're not going to see the difference between AP and lucid dreaming.
That's true. Most people don't see the difference, and
Yeah,
it's obvious. It's kind of can be difficult to understand. So the
yeah.
difference would be that uh, for me the both lucid dreaming and dreaming and astral projection are projections. They're all projections. There are you having a projection outside of your. Um, to me, it's not happening in the brain. It's consciousness is not within this sort of physical shell of the brain. This is just like a filter that's able to filter information. The information is not stored here. It's in the field, in the conscious
Mm,
field, in this
yeah.
field that we're talking about. So when you're projecting yourself, you when you have a dream, you would project yourself in a dimension of your own subjective reality, which is based on your imagination, your beliefs, your well, everything about you, really. And when you have a lucid dream, it's basically a dream as well, but a dream that is controllable, a dream that you're conscious that you are dreaming. You know that you're dreaming. You're like, oh, this is a dream. You are aware of what's happening. You're no longer just experiencing the dream as a movie that's playing out. You're experiencing the dream as a game that you can participate in, you can play.
Mm,
But you are the explorer, and you are also the creator of that reality. And so it's a subjective reality. It's a projection in a subjective reality. When you ask to project, you're going beyond that sort of dimension. You go into an objective reality or objective realities, because there are countless realities out there. And in that objective reality, you're no longer the creator of that reality. So if you're trying to perhaps change the colors of the walls in the city that you're visiting, you can do that in a lucid dream because it's your creation. But in an astral projection, you will have to you won't be able to change things because those places are shared by multiple consciousnesses, and so your will upon that world is not going to affect that world in the same way that it will affect your own world that you're creating in a lucid dream. So there are two different states, but there are many similarities between them, and
mm.
they're both lucid dreaming and astral projection are powerful tools for different things. You know, sometimes people neglect lucid dreaming, like, oh, well, that's not as cool as astral projection, um, which I think both are cool. I think both can be used for different
Yeah.
things. Lucid dreaming, you can go within yourself, and you can create. You can work on traumas. You can work on your inner self, your past memories. You can use your imagination and create things. Like some people use lucid dreaming to visualize maybe a car that they want to design. And they can go into this like imaginary garage and create a car with lights and cool stuff based on their imagination, and they can remember it and they can create it the next day. And so, being in your own little simulated reality can be very beneficial. But if you're looking to find out answers to, to the bigger questions of life, or connect with spirit guides, or, visit other realities, then of course, then you don't want to use lucid dreaming environments for that. You want to go and have astral projections. You want to have projections in these other dimensions, which are objective dimensions that you can actually gain real information from those places.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the
funny because
difference.
I often lucid dream when I'm having a nightmare. So, I'm having a nightmare, somebody that I love is, getting killed, or myself, I don't know. And I'm like, fuck, I'm in my dream. I can stop right now. And it's often the case for me. It's often
That's
how I
really
lucid
good.
dream.
That's a really good point. And for those people that have nightmares, lucid dreaming is a very powerful tool, because you can stop the nightmare if you want to, or you can do another thing which is much more powerful, which is to actually heal that aspect of you that is suffering from the nightmare. So, for example, you might have a monster that's chasing you, and if you were to if you the normal thing to do is to run away from this monster, and you're sort of you're suffering, you're very scared, it's an unpleasant dream because you're running away from this monster. But if you become lucid in that moment and you realize, hey, I'm dreaming, this is a dream, this monster isn't real, this monster is normally an aspect of oneself that is trying to show you something, and if you're escaping it, you're not really solving the problem. What you need to do is to face the monster and not fight the monster like most people would think, but actually give the monster a big, loving hug. And
Yeah.
when you do that, the monster will dissolve. And I've done this before, and the monsters would turn into small puppies or something like that, like a very cute symbol. And when that happens, you also feel a powerful release of emotions going through your body, of transformation, where you just healed something. And it can be that monster is a symbol of your boss that is very difficult to you, and you really hate your boss, and you've created this really bad relationship to him in your subconscious mind. And when you have these dreams, it comes up as a monster attacking you, giving you a hard time. And then when you do this sort of healing work, where you integrate this monster, where you love this monster, your boss, then that can have a transformative feeling on an emotional level, of course.
Yeah.
The relationship to your boss will likely change, and you also learn something about how you can deal with that with your boss in the future. And usually love is the key. Compassion, love, understanding is the key. And
dreaming can be healing.
Very healing, yeah. And I mean, I think everyone has had dreams where you wake up and you've experienced a very powerful emotion. So it could have been a wet dream where you just had a really sexual time with someone and you wake up like super horny, or it could be that you're terrified from something that happened in the dream, or it can be, I think everyone has experienced very powerful dreams that affects your mood. When you wake up, you're so affected by that dream because it almost felt more real and more emotional than physical life can feel.
Yeah, it's funny because sometimes you dreamed that you were making out with a colleague, and the other day you can see him, and it's like, oh, I don't know why it happened, but it's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, and if you're able to use that powerful emotional state that you can create in a dream scenario to your advantage as a tool, you can do some very powerful transformational things with your traumas, with your emotional well-being, and all of these things. So it's very
but you have to work hard to be able to do that in your dream. It's a plain work.
It's a practice that you have to dedicate yourself to.
Yeah, but it's so interesting.
Yeah.
So do you remember the first time you experienced AP? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Right. So that was the question before, right?
Yeah,
so,
initially.
Yeah, so I don't remember how we got into the lucid dreaming part,
I was
but
asking that, for the listeners to know
yeah,
what's the
okay, so now I
difference.
remember I was talking about that I had lucid dreams in the past. That's how we talked about. Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, I had lucid dreams in the past, spontaneously, just going to sleep and then finding myself in a dream, and then I'm like, wait, this is a dream, and I had those experiences in the past spontaneously and really enjoyed them. But like most people, we just think not much about them, like they're just dreams, they're nothing important. You just move on with life. So I never really paid attention to it. I never really tried to encourage it or anything.
Mm.
But then I started to, as I was working on big movies and visual effects and stuff like that, I think my realities were started to get, there was this kind of interesting merging effect that was happening where I was living my physical life, doing normal things, and then I was working on movies that were, very sci-fi, very out there, and working with that for hours, and then going home, and then my reality started to merge a little bit in my mind, where I was like kind of like living in this alternative movie-ish reality, and I started to wonder like if there is some sort of connection, or if there, I guess this feeling of like there, to me, a lot of the things I see in the movies feels a bit real, a bit like, yeah, this could be happening. Like this could happen in the future, or this might happen somewhere on some planets. Yes, there are definitely aliens out there flying around with laser guns. um, so I started to wonder more and more about what is reality, where we're coming from, where we're going, why we're here. All of these questions started to become more important, and
Mm.
I wanted to get answers to these questions. So I decided that religion wasn't working for me. Like reading the Bible wasn't giving me the answers. It felt too simple. I was looking for something more, and I started to go down the rabbit hole of going to different workshops, going to different festivals, different retreats here and there. And at some point, I had an experience in one of the workshops where it was I was open-minded to the fact that, okay, there's this thing called astral projection. And by the way, this is the reason I heard about it was that I was experimenting with psychedelics at the time, and I was
No
experiencing
kidding.
yeah, I was experiencing these other dimensional, things that I would see, that I was experiencing on mushrooms or DMT or these kind of substances, ayahuasca.
Mm.
I went to the jungle with shamans, and I had experiences, and I was seeing these other things that I couldn't explain,
Mm.
what they were, and it was very clear. It's very clear when you have these experiences that there are much more to reality you than we see with our eyes.
Yeah,
Um,
it opens our
yeah,
mind.
it does. And
Hmm.
I started to meet people that are telling me that you can experience these things without having to have these substances. Because the thing was that, yes, they're cool, they're cool experiences, but they're quite heavy on the body. It's not something you can do
Exactly.
on a daily basis. It's something
Yeah.
that you do maybe once a year, or something like that. It's quite experience. So it's not something that I could constantly do and learn from. So I
Yeah.
started to meet
It's not
people that
very
are telling me
healthy
that,
to do that every time.
yeah,
Every month
it's
it's time for my ayahuasca, my DMT.
yeah, it's quite
Yeah,
hard
yeah,
experience.
after a few months you're like, oh no, I cannot do it anymore.
Yeah, they're really intense. They're really
Yeah.
intense experiences. And I started to meet people that told me that there are ways for us to access other dimensions and have these experiences without taking any of these substances, just naturally, just meditating and stuff like that. And that was really interesting to me because I saw that as an opportunity to learn something that I could then use to learn more and grow, and and as a truth seeker, I wanted to that sounded really interesting to me, and so I got sucked into searching for these kind of workshops and these retreats, and I went to a few, and then I had my first experience. And I just wanted to briefly mention though that there's psychedelics, the experiences from psychedelics and the astral projection experiences are very different. They're not. They're very. There's no. I haven't had a single astral projection that has been similar to a psychedelic experience.
Yeah.
Psychedelic experience is usually very psychedelic and very full on, very intense, very colorful, very weird, very while an astral projection is usually very normal,
Human, yeah, normal,
things,
yeah.
yeah, very, you will visit rooms, cities, places, people, trees, like it's not a foreign, weird, colorful landscape that you are completely tripped out of. It's more solid, it's more controllable, it's more calm, it's not an intense roller coaster ride. It's very manageable. So I just want people to know that they're not the same. They're completely different experiences.
Great point.
But they are alternate state of consciousness, and they are interesting in their own ways. But they're different tools for different things. So I don't want to mix them up. But it's just interesting how, these experiences takes us. We learn something that takes us to another thing, and then we kind of go down the rabbit hole. So here am I going to this workshop and then trying this new methods to learn how to get out of body, being open-minded to the part that it could be possible, but I wasn't like, I was still a bit skeptical because I wasn't the type of person that had any experiences in the past. I didn't have any spontaneous out of body experiences. I met a lot of people in these workshops that would telling me, that would say that they would see different things and feel different things. And we would be in the same workshop and someone would do some healing on them and then on me. And they would say things like, oh, I felt this, I saw this, so many things happening. And I'm like, I didn't feel anything. And a lot of times I question if those people are just crazy, or they're just imagining.
I'm like that.
A powerful imagination. So I was always quite skeptic minded to many of these spiritual things. So when I heard about this astral projection thing, and when I was trying it, there was still a skeptic part of me very much present, in that it might not even work and it's just imagination or whatever. But I was open-minded to try it. And I think that's what's
very
really
important.
That you have to be open-minded. You have to just kind of let your ego aside and say, I don't know everything. Let me try. Let me see what these people are doing. And then, after I've tried it, I'll make my mind.
Exactly. Yeah, totally 100% with you like that, for that.
Yeah. Good.
No, because it's really important to open your minds, to try and to have our own opinion about that,
Yeah, exactly. And it's also important to go into it with an open mind and not with a biased mind. Sometimes people go into something to try something, but they already made up their mind that it's not going to work for them. And that's a very limiting belief that doesn't take you very far. So it's you have to be open-minded. I think that's the only way.
I was open-minded, but I had a deep belief inside me that I didn't deserve a thing. I didn't deserve to succeed. In that. So limited belief also play a role in that.
Yes, of course. Your mindset plays a big role in this stuff.
Exactly.
It is a mental thing that you have to get in a specific state. You have to, and if your belief systems are off, if you believe that you cannot do it, if you believe that's not possible, if you believe any of these things, then it's a roadblock that blocks you from getting further. So I guess I believe that this could be possible. Like within my worldview of the way that I saw reality, it kind of made sense. Like, it makes sense that there was more to reality than just this. But if I could do it or not, like that was a different question. So here I am trying out this method, and at that time I was using this direct method meditation where you get yourself into a relaxed state and you listen to a soundtrack that gives you some instructions on how to relax yourself. And your goal is really to get your mind to stay awake while your body goes into sleep. And that's the tricky part, because normally when we
Exactly.
sleep at night, it's the opposite that takes place. Our mind falls asleep first, and then our body comes after. So here you have to do the reverse. And so I was doing this thing, and what happened was, the first time I had an experience, it wasn't a full out of body experience. It was like, I guess what you can call a half out of body experience, because what happened was that at some point in this meditation, I was aware that I could see the ceiling of, or the room, the sort of the room that I was in. I could see like the ceiling, the walls, the pictures, everything that was in the room. I could see that very clearly, and I knew that that was not possible for my physical eyes to do, because we are wearing these very thick black eye masks that just covers our
Mm.
eyes. And that's because when you get into this altered state, you can suddenly start seeing through this mask. It's a very common thing that I see happening a lot with my students as well. And it definitely happened to me the first time, that suddenly I am able to see the room. And I know that I have this thick mask that's impossible to look through with your physical eyes. And
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like super
useful to
excited
have
because
that.
very useful. And so I'm seeing this, I'm seeing the room, but I'm also hearing some very strange sounds I've never heard before. And I'm feeling, and I feel different. There's a very distinct feeling.
Yeah.
I just knew, okay, this is it. This is the thing that they've been talking about. That is the thing, like, and it was unmistakable. And I could hear uh, this. It's hard to explain the sounds, but there was this
Buzzing
kind of
sound.
spatial
Yeah.
sound of different things, and then they solidify, and it's almost like you can, with your awareness, you can sort of decide what you want to listen to. And I start to hear sounds of winds, sounds of nature, sounds of birds, sounds of a river flowing,
Yeah.
as if I was sitting next to the river, hearing the river and hearing the birds. But I was in the room, and this room was, it was on the countryside, but it was very far away from like those sounds. You cannot hear those in the room. The room is
Mm.
completely silent. Even if you go outside of the house, you don't really hear those sounds. And what's then happened was that the next day, when I went out for a walk with the group that I was with, uh, about 100 or 200 meters away from the house, there was actually a river, and there was this trees and the birds, and like all those sounds that I could hear from the room was 200 meters away from the house somewhere. There was that river. I didn't know there was a river there beforehand. And there I was like, oh, this is exactly the nature sounds that I heard from the room. And this happened to me many times afterwards, that I would get into a specific state, in this in-between state, and I would suddenly hear the sounds from the environment that I'm in, but very amplified. So if I'm in the city, I would hear thousands of people having conversation, and they're so clear as if they're sitting in my room. And sometimes I will get scared, and I will take off my eye mask, and I'll be like, hey, who broke into my house, And I'll look around, and then there's no one there, and I
Yeah.
get fooled. And I realize, oh, okay, that was not coming from my room. That was coming from far outside.
Exactly. Mm.
So that was the first experience. It was me getting into this state, me seeing through this thick eye mask, and hearing these sounds that are not coming from the room. And then what was interesting was that as I was looking around the room, like, oh, I'm seeing the room. This happens. Oh, what am I supposed to do now? Like, this is very classical sort of excitement thoughts that beginners have, is
Yeah.
that something is happening and they get really excited. And of course,
Exactly.
what happens when you get excited is
Boom.
that the experience goes away. So I remember as I was looking at the room, there was this kind of black smoke that started to solidify in front of me, like, and it was just kind of covering my eyes. And then suddenly I knew, okay, now I'm back in my body, and I took off my mask, and I could see the room,
Yeah.
and the room looked exactly the same as I saw it, but now I saw it with my physical eyes.
Mm.
And it was very interesting to see that transition coming from seeing through this physical object and then not seeing through it. And
Yeah.
it's quite a classical thing that happens
When you're
to
too
people.
excited.
Yeah, when you get emotionally scared or excited or anything that brings you back into this physical, emotional
Sensations.
state,
Yeah.
the experience goes away.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so from that moment, you say to yourself, okay, I'm gonna find out more. I'm gonna try more.
Yeah, that experience was so convincing that it was not a dream, that it was not my imagination, that
You
it was
know, you know,
nothing.
you know, you know, deep down, you know that it's not real.
Yeah, it
It's
was.
not like
Yeah,
no normal
yeah, it was
reality.
very, very convincing. It's always impossible to explain that to a new person because even what I'm saying now does not sound convincing to someone that has not tried it,
Exactly.
because it's an experience they have to have themselves to get convinced. It's impossible to convince someone of these experiences. To most people, it sounds just like you're imagining or you're dreaming, you know. So it's an experience. It's a personal journey. And so when that happened to me, I knew from that moment that this was real. This was actually not any of the other things, imagination, dreaming, and all that stuff. This is
Yeah,
real.
it's
And
more
I
than real. You know, it's like you can see
became
three
very
and sixty
obsessed.
hundred. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can see all
I,
around.
I became, yeah, you can see you can have a 360-degree vision. Yeah. Um, yeah. And I became very obsessed with that because I realized how like it was like opening a treasure with this amazing power that we possess, though I didn't know I had, and then learning that everyone has it,
Mm.
and there's tools out there that you can use to access it. And that was like, okay, this is going to be my new life path. I'm going to explore this. This is
And so it makes me think of sleep paralysis, as a lot of person experience that and they are very afraid of it, but they don't know that in fact it can be very useful and easier to get out of your body.
yeah. Well, so sleep paralysis, for those people that don't know, it's quite common. It's a usually a terrifying experience because so people that have it is basically you are waking up, your mind is waking up before your body is waking up. So you sleep and then suddenly you're awake. You are even able to open your eyes, but your body is completely paralyzed. And
Mm.
the body gets paralyzed every night when you go to sleep. It's a natural process to keep us safe. It's an evolutionary process that's there so that when we dream, we don't move in our bed and fall and hurt ourselves. So we're meant to have this paralyzation taking place with our physical bodies when we're asleep, but we're meant to wake the body up naturally when we are awake. And for some people, this doesn't happen. They are waking up mentally. They're back. They're conscious of being awake, but their body is asleep. And if you don't know what it is, if you think there's something wrong happening to you, then that creates a lot of fear. So the sensation of not being able to move, plus the body feels heavy, and usually
Mm.
the breathing feels difficult as well. So
Yeah.
there's a sensation of a pressure on the chest. These different sensations always lead to that people start manifesting their fears and seeing very scary things happening, like in the room, or maybe some scary thing sitting on their chest, or something choking them, or spiders, or like all kinds of scary stuff that is like the fear is trying to justify what's happening to them, and sort of
Yeah,
the mind starts to create all of these scary things happening in the room.
that seems
And
so real.
that seems so real, and it really freaks the hell out of people. Some people get very heavily traumatized to the point where they're terrified of going to sleep because it might happen a lot, so they know that, oh, it's going to happen tomorrow again. And the thing is, if you believe that that's real, if for example, if you're in a very religious family and your parents tell you that there's demons trying to possess you, well, that's pretty fucked up, because you're gonna get so scared, and you're
Yeah,
gonna think it's real, and you're gonna think it's bad. You're gonna hate sleep. You're gonna have a very hard time. And some
yeah,
people have that. So what you need to know is that they're not real, and they're your own creations, your fears being projected.
yeah.
And once you've learned once you understand that, first of all, once you understand that they're not real, and once you get the control back by knowing how to wake up from that state, and what you can do is you can basically change the way you're breathing, because you can control your breathing in that state, but you cannot control your body. But you can control the speed you're breathing, the rhythm. And so if you start breathing unrhythmically with your breath, your body will get the signal and understand that you are awake, and then it will remove the paralyzation, and then you can gain control. You can start moving, and everything is fine. So a person that's very paralyzed, that has a lot of sleep paralysis, that learns how to control it, how to exit that state, and then understands that the things that they're seeing are not real. They report that they are no longer having these scary things happen in the room, because they're not scared of it anymore, because now they have the power to exit that state, and they understand that the things they were seeing were not real. And so they're able
But
to transform their experience from
yeah,
being scared.
but
And
it's
yes, as
also the
you were
first step
saying
to get out of the
before,
body.
yes,
Sorry.
so as you were saying before, you can use that as I think you can use that as a way to astral project. And I think those people that have sleep paralysis, they're like um, they're like natural astral projectors. They just don't
Mm.
know it. So it's kind of, I think the best thing will be for more people to know about this, so that if they have sleep paralysis, instead of being scared and shocked, they'll be like, oh, great, I could astral project now. I can use this state to get a body.
Mm.
And they don't have to practice as hard. They don't have to, they don't need all these super high tech methods to get out of body. They can just relax into it and use some very, easy techniques to be able to just get out of that, get out of body, get a, have an astral projection in that state,
So
and
it's a
use
great
it instead of
opportunity.
being, yeah, it's a great opportunity. Yeah.
So let's talk about the symptoms of AP, because I think that every experience is unique. But there are some similarities before doing AP. The first time I had it was totally not plain. As I said, I didn't know it existed. And I said to myself before going to sleep, I want my soul to take over my mind. I don't know what I say that, but anyway, I said it. And it's odd. But then I was in my bed lying down and I did not sleep. It felt like, meditation. And I think after 2 hours, I began hearing water from a cascade very clearly. So, like you said, so it was a water in a cascade, and it was clearer and clearer. And then I heard a very, very loud buzzing sound, like if I was outside on an airplane, that was taking
Jet
off. Yeah,
engine.
yeah,
Yeah, classical.
exactly. And all my
Mm.
body was buzzing, and I think those are common symptoms, if I may say.
Very common symptoms. Yeah, they're the symptoms normally are yeah, this feeling of vibration that you described, this buzzing feeling in your body. That's probably the most famous one, because it's the most noticeable one. Like when that happens, when someone is either having it spontaneously while waking up, or because they're doing this practice, when it comes, it's very noticeable that it's just
Mm.
something suddenly just happens all over your body, and it feels like this electrical vibrational feeling. It can be different intensity for different people. Some people can feel as if, like the first time I had it, I felt like someone was um, using this sort of jackhammer machine on my chest, and my whole body
Yeah,
was like moving. And some people experience some people feel as if there was an earthquake taking place in the
yeah,
house, and
exactly.
they can get scared. It can feel very physical, and it can also feel very
Really.
subtle. It depends on the person. That's a very common one. Another one is the sounds, hearing sounds, or seeing things, seeing a landscape, or feeling a sense of expansion or floating. There, these are some of the symptoms that you can experience when you are in that right state, or in this borderline between sleep and awake, where you start to sort of dissolve yourself from the physical dimension, and up and down no longer matters, and gravity no longer matters. Everything just starts to kind of dissolve. All the rules of this dimension starts to dissolve, and suddenly you can experience things that are beyond the physical senses. You don't experience those things with your physical senses. You start to experience them with your consciousness. You hear things that are
Exactly.
really far away, not because your ears are like super high tech, No, the organs in the ears are kind of going into offline mode because the sounds that you hear in the room, in your real room, are getting more muffled, and your vision is gone, and so it's like you're transitioning your let's say your instruments that you're using to sense reality. You're transitioning from sensing reality from the physical body into sensing reality and in this other, I would say the energy body, like we like to call it. We have this energy vehicle that we can travel with, and you sort of transition the senses to that, and that one with this energy body, you can hear things, feel other sensations that are not the normal type of physical ones that you're used to. And when that happens, you know that you can actually ask to project at that point. So
Yeah,
what did
that's
you
what I
do in
did,
that
and I tried to
period?
wake up my boyfriend, but I could not
Yeah.
touch him. It was so weird, and I'm like, what the fuck?
So
And it
your
was a
hand was
big, a
going
big white screen right in front of me.
a big white screen.
Yeah, like a pure
Oh,
light in a 360 degree pure light, and after I
right.
was like pushed in dimensions because it was a sacral geometry, and everything that I'm telling you, I was not, I was not spiritual. I was an atheist. It was not my thing at all. I didn't ask for it, so it was so weird for me, but so real. So it opened my mind a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't come back from that experience
No.
um, going back to life normally. You something happens, something makes you think, okay, there's something else going on here that I need to understand. And it's
Yeah.
so great that that's a great gift for you that you had that spontaneously.
And that's why
And you
we
also
are having this conversation, because I will never speak about that if I had not experienced it. So that's great.
yeah, yeah, I wish everyone would experience it because I think that would really make a huge impact on the planet in a positive
Exactly.
way.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I was wondering about the challenges people have when they try to EP, because it's difficult to try something you don't even know the results. And what are the mistakes they often make?
Well, I think the first mistake that most people make is that they think they forget that this is a skill like any other skill. And for example, when you're practicing, let's say, I don't know, let's say gymnastics, and you're supposed to do a backflip or some sort of something that you need strength, you need technique, you need a bunch of things to be able to perform this spin, turn around, twist, whatever.
Yeah,
Uh,
regularly.
when you practice something like that, it's going to take you a while to get to that level. It's not like you don't just do it and then it's supposed to work on the first try. So when people go into this type of practice, astral projection, lucid dreaming, this kind of things, they tend to somehow forget that it's kind of the same. Like it takes practice to get into it. It's not something that's just going to happen overnight. You need to dedicate your time and you need to be disciplined. It needs to be a regular practice. So usually that's the first thing, that they don't practice uh, disciplined enough.
Hmm.
Then the other problem is that if they do practice very consciously, very sort of they're disciplined to do the practice. They repeat the process, right? They do the practice. That's good, but then you also must make sure that you are always analyzing your practice afterwards, so that you don't just repeat the same thing you've done
Yeah.
yesterday and the day before and the week before. You always have to improve what you're doing. You always have to optimize and fine tune your practice, because otherwise you're just repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, which
Hmm.
it's not going to really happen. So it's you have to have the mindset of a scientist when you're doing this practice, so that you are constantly looking at your projection attempts like a scientific experiments that you're doing with yourself, and you always have to analyze the practice afterwards, so that you look at what happened, what was the result of the practice, and then you think about how you can improve the practice. What variables can you change in the experiment, so that next time you practice, you don't fall asleep again, for example.
Totally. Yeah. Mm.
Those are
um,
those some of the things that would really
yeah.
help people.
Yeah, no, it's important to know that. Yeah, it's like when you do sport, you have to go regularly. You got to go deeper to have the insights of your last session. I was
Yeah.
wondering about the entities you can meet and how far you can go, because I think it is bigger than we can imagine. But how do you see it?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine something that's beyond like your
Possible.
perception. It's really it's so again, if you would compare it to the internet, I don't know if people are familiar, some people are familiar with the size of the internet. So there's these pictures that can show you it shows you an iceberg, and you have the sort of the ocean level, let's say it's here, and then you have the tip of the iceberg, which is here, and that is
Mm,
the internet that you have access to when you're browsing with Google or any other sites.
yeah.
But the internet is, the majority part of the internet is underneath the surface of the water. And that's what we call the dark web. That's where the
Hmm.
most of the internet is. And it's the same with like this with reality. We are experiencing a very small fraction of reality right now when we are in the physical, and for good reason, because you don't want to see all the dimensions and all the realities as you're in this reality, right? Because it's going to be very confusing and kind of
Yeah.
disorienting. It's good to focus on one thing, when you're here. But there are so much more out there that you can explore, and I think it's how much. It's really hard to say. It could be infinite amount of places with infinite amount of variables where realities are, gravity is going to be different, or maybe there's no gravity, or there's like just all possible ways that reality can exist will most likely exist somewhere in some dimension, where there are creatures with 8 arms, or with one hand, or with 5 eyes, or creatures are flying, or like really anything that you can imagine and not even imagine most likely exists somewhere in some form, because the universe just wants to express itself, wants to grow, wants to expand, wants to create all kinds of different variations of reality, and grow and explore and learn. So everything would be out there. But it doesn't mean that when you get a body, you will experience all of that. You usually would experience the things that you're ready for, or you experience the things that relate to you more, because your vibrational frequency will be a match to that reality. You cannot go into a place that's not a match with you. Or if you want to go to like some very high spiritual heavens where there's like these ascended masters living, for example, and if you're not a match to that frequency, if you're not, your conscious is not at that level, at that point, you won't be able to enter that space.
That's why you get to work on yourself too.
Yeah, you got to work on yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And your limited belief and everything, your traumas. You got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, definitely. But I think the powerful things about these practices is that they are they can be very effective to work on different things, and also I think the best part is that it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to be able to explore out of your physical body and
Yeah.
physical limitations, and fly, teleport, go through walls. Um,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
love doing that. It's so weird, but I love putting my hands in the wall. I love the sensation and the windows. And I often
yeah,
do
it's
that.
very magical. Yeah,
I don't go
the
too
fact that you,
far, but I'm
yeah,
I'm going to the streets and I'm going through the walls. I'm flying. I love flying. It's so weird, but I love that.
yeah, it's amazing, amazing. When you put your hand through a wall, you can feel the
Yeah.
textures, the materials inside of the wall, all the small little pieces and stuff. It's very
But
interesting.
that's a question I always have. What is the role of the subconscious and the imagination for doing AP? Because I often AP in the middle of the night, so I'm not very aware, but my conscious is waking up, my awareness is waking up, and sometimes I see or feel somebody. I remember one day I thought it was a spirit guide, but it was full of flames. It was weird. And we were going up, and then my awareness go off, and I go back to bed. I went back to bed. Um, so I was wondering if the imagination, even though it felt very real, has a role, had the role to play. I was wondering about that.
So imagination has a big role because it's the way that uh, we can create things. Imagination can be I mean, what is imagination? It's like your thoughts manifesting in a way, right? So that's what
Exactly.
imagination
Yeah.
is. And so your thoughts manifesting in the physical realm, when you manifest, when you sort of visualize something, you visualize maybe a glass on the table, let's say. In the physical, that glass is not going to appear instantly on the table. If you work on that imagination for a while, you might manifest a glass appearing on the table suddenly. You know, your friend just comes with a glass. Hey man, here's a glass. And that's how this reality works. It will take some time for that thing that you're imagining to materialize in the physical. But in these other dimensions, in these non-physical dimensions, thoughts are very instant. So you can just, materialize a glass in front of you, or you can, usually easier is to look away and sort of materialize the glass in your hand, and then look back, and then the glass is there. Or you can create things. And the reason is because like a good way to think about it is that we are source consciousness. We are creators, and we are in this, you can call it virtual reality matrix system, whatever. And with our intent, with our thoughts, we operate in this dimension, in these dimensions. We create things, we navigate, everything happens with our intent, with our thoughts. And even in the physical, everything happens always with our intent and our thoughts. Every idea, every business that was created, every product, anything that has ever been created, always started with an idea, with a vision, with a thought, and then that thought was put in motion and been taken actions to make it happen. But it always starts with that. And so the cool thing about it in the Astral is that you can just create anything instantly. You can really you can create a car, and then you go up to it and the car is warm, it smells like petrol, it's like all of those kind of things.
Yeah. So everything is linked. Everything is linked.
Yeah, everything. Yeah.
So we're going to talk about, the AP wisdom. I was wondering what AP made you understand about life and the universe.
Right. That's obviously a very big question. I'm still working on that. I'm still working on understanding the bigger
lifetime
pictures.
journey.
Yeah, it's a lifetime journey. So I won't say like, hey, yeah, I got the answer. This is how it is. But I would say that there has been, it's definitely helped me a lot to understand more. And so some of the things that it helps me understand is, I think there's been this, for some time, there was this phase in my life where I was like, okay, I'm not the religious type of person that, I went to church and I listened to what they're saying. I've been reading some books and stuff, but it wasn't fully resonating with me, that route.
Yeah,
The
not at all for me.
religious part, it wasn't giving me enough answers. It wasn't advanced enough, and it was a bit too, I don't know, just too simple.
So rigid, so stiff, one way and not the other.
Yeah, so that didn't work for me. And the thought that the other side of it, of the coin, was like, well, there's this atheist belief system that there's no meaning to anything, and we're just a random coincidence, and everything you see is just a coincidence. Nothing was meant to be. It just happened, and there's no meaning to it, and there's no meaning to life. And when you die, you just disappear, and that's it. Bye. There's no more you, and there's no point to that you existed either. Like, all of that just never resonated with me. Like, on a deeper level, I knew that there is that this
Far
doesn't
more.
make sense.
Yeah, it would be it would be like a waste of time to just live like 80 years and fuck off, you on the ground, and that's it. What?
I think so, yeah. So then with my journey with astral projection, exploring this personally and working with other people, listening to their experiences, and researching this for years, I've come to understand that we are much more than this physical human body. We are here as a sort of source consciousness, a spiritual being having a physical experience in a human form to learn this reality system. And there are countless reality systems that we can incarnate to. So incarnate into a specific vehicle of that system. Maybe it's a different planet that we can explore how it is to live life on that planet with that system, with those rules of reality that exist in that system. And every system has its own, reality and its own teachings. And the human life is one type of school that teaches you many things. And then we move on from this lifetime, go into maybe a different incarnation here, or maybe an incarnation somewhere else. And life continues, or the journey continues, the consciousness journey that we go through to grow continues. And the purpose is growth. The purpose is
Yeah,
spiritual growth. And I
totally.
think that is what makes that is what puts things in perspective in an important way. Because if you believe that this is all there is, and when you die, you disappear, then your focus in life will be of like just making yourself as comfortable as possible in this life. And that's all that matters, that you're comfortable, you have your home, your car, your life, and that's
Your
it. You don't need
TV.
anything more. Yeah, you just pass time, and there's no
Yeah.
ultimate goal, because you're gonna die anyway at the end of your life. So what's the point of
What's the point? Yeah.
doing anything anyway?
Mm.
The future is death, and it's dark, right? But if you understand that you continue, that you're here to learn and grow, then of course you want to learn more and you want to grow more, because you understand that you're gonna keep growing, and you're gonna take this wisdom with you. You might not take your memories with you from this lifetime, and I think sometimes people think that if reincarnation is true, then why is it that you cannot remember your previous life? And I think you don't remember your previous life in memories, because that would be a very heavy burden to carry.
Yeah.
Imagine if you had to carry the traumas of all the lifetimes that you ever lived on
Like I
planet
was a
Earth.
rapist before or something like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. You wouldn't be able to have a fresh life. You'd be operating with the traumas and the baggage from all the other lives. You won't be able to live this life fully, because you would have all of the stuff in the background pulling you down, or affecting you in different ways. So instead, you don't remember the specific things that happened, but you do have the lessons with you on some level. I think that's why you see people, they're just born with different talents. They're just able to do things very easily, while other people have to struggle to learn those things. So the things that we've learned in some lifetimes it's easier for us to get those skills back in this lifetime, or we just understand that some things much easier now than we understood, than other people understand that maybe haven't learned that lesson in a previous lifetime. So I think the learnings comes back in a different format than what people expect them to in this way. And
Mm.
the wisdom gets sort of saved somewhere in this matrix system, in our being somehow, in our in our being.
Mm. Yeah.
And so yeah, that's one of the things, that we are much more than this physical being, and we're continuing our journeys to learn. And the excitement thing about astral projection is that we can explore beyond our physical body, to actually have experiences that can give us that comfort that yes, this is true. This is how it happens. You will continue after your physical body dies, and you don't have to worry about the physical death. And also the comfort that if a dear loved one of yours does die, they're not just gone and you lost them forever. You can connect with them using this method. You can connect with them in the afterlife. You can revisit them wherever they are and see that they're okay. Or it's just that I think that gives a lot of healing a lot of peace to you when you realize that death isn't the end of your life, or the death at the end of other people's lives.
Yeah.
That they are
And I'm not scared
continuing
of death anymore because of that, because of AP. So
because
thanks
of
to
it.
AP, actually.
Yeah, I mean, how would people live their life and feel about living life if they were not scared about dying, or were not as scared about their son or daughter dying, or
Mm,
another person they love dying? How would life be if you could live it with less fear, with less anxiety? How much more grateful would you be able to live that life? And how much more purpose would your life get if you knew that you were here for a reason, that you had a mission here, that you're here to learn, here to grow? How much more exciting is it to live that kind of life than the life of there's no purpose and I'm going to disappear when I
yeah.
die? Like it's just like it's very different feelings to live that life or that life. It's so
Yeah.
much
Not
more
the same
meaningful.
goals, but one is more interesting than the other. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Mm. So,
Hmm.
about your program, how did you come with the program? Because there are so many methods to AP, so it must have been so difficult.
Right. So building a program and quant materializing a program from this very abstract kind of things, making a practice out of this was definitely a challenge. But I think the what's important as a coach, as a teacher, for me, is important to look at my own practice, my own journey. How did I learn? What was it that worked for me? And so that filters out a lot of things, because there's a lot of things people talk about out there, but I know what worked for me. I know what didn't work for me. So then it makes sense that I create a program that is related to my own personal
Of
journey that I
course,
took.
yeah.
And so it doesn't make sense for me to involve things that other people have said if I haven't tried them myself, if it hasn't worked for me.
Yeah.
So it's a filtering process. And I'm like, okay, researching this for years, going to many different retreats, learning from many different teachers, and then trying the different things, and then seeing what works and what didn't work.
Yeah.
Has been a selection process of like, okay, if I'm going to build a program, then I'm going to just include those things that are crucial for the success. So those things are important. I don't want to include too much of the things that aren't, because people's going to get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It's not going to be relevant. You just have to focus on the most important aspects of the practice, and then in a beautiful way structure it so that people can follow a step-by-step process, and they don't get confused. And I speak in a very rational, simple way
Yeah.
to understand. And I think it's
Yeah.
very
Well done.
helpful when someone learns. Yeah, when someone learns these things, it can be quite disorientating if people are wishy-washy and
Woo woo.
not very clear and very woo.
Mm.
It's difficult to learn that way, I find, because that was one of the challenges I had when I had teachers that were very wishy-washy. When I was asking a question and the question was like this woo-woo response, that I was like,
Yeah.
still don't know
Mm-hmm.
if I have the answer to my
Not.
question. It
Yeah.
didn't help me to progress. It made me kind of staggered in my evolution. So um, for me, as a rational person, I need rational instructions. Do this, don't do this, because this doesn't work, because of this, because of that. Like, I need explanations. I need to understand on a very detailed technical level. So that's the way I
Mm.
teach as well, the way I learn.
Yeah, and I
And
like the thing that there's a few methods to try to find the projection blueprint actually.
right. So the reason I teach three different methods, well, first of all, some people might think there's like a million methods out there, but usually there are the methods are not the methods that people talk about out there. They're usually has to do with one of these three main
Yeah.
methods. So I teach the three main methods, and these main methods are how to get a body uh, while asleep. So when you go to sleep, how you can become lucid in the dream and then transition from a dream into an astral projection. So that's something we do as we're sleeping, becoming conscious in the sleep. Then the other method is how to be, how to astral project while waking up from sleep. So the moment that you are waking up from having been sleeping for a while, you can enter this state in that movement out of body. And then the last one is how to enter this state from being awake, meditating yourself into this very deep state, and then getting out of body that way. And the reason I teach all these different, the 3 different methods is because I noticed very early on that people are very different. So one method that works for some people, it's not going to work for everyone. But if you have multiple entry points, access points, then the success rate goes up because there's all these different ways of accessing the state now. So then in the program, we work on creating a projection blueprint. We experiment with different methods, and we experiment with all the different ingredients of how long, when you go to sleep, when you wake up, which method, which soundtrack, which technique. There's so many things. We experiment with all of those things, and then we're able to fine-tune the practice to find out your projection blueprint, which is a blueprint of what makes projection possible for you. Since everyone is different, we have to figure out through experimentation what that is for you on a personal level. I wish sometimes that I would just have a 3-step process that would just work for everyone. That would be the easiest, right?
Yeah.
Just do this, and that's it. You're going to get out of body. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. It's more complicated. People are different.
Everyone is different.
Different works. Yeah. So it needs to be a sort of careful process of going through the different variation of the practices. And in the program, we do that on a personal level. I speak to people on a personal level, and I really help them figure out their lifestyle and their
yeah, it's not only a program because you have you have coaching sessions.
Exactly. So just giving people information will work for some people. Some people are able to take information, watch all the videos, do the work, and succeed. Some people can do that. But more often enough, people need someone to guide them, someone to motivate them, someone to show them what they're doing wrong, or to point out things they misunderstood. And a lot of times people watch videos and they misunderstand things. They understand it in their own way, which is maybe not the way that's supposed to be. So with coaching sessions, we're able to really dissect everything and make sure that they understand what they have to do. When they get stuck, they know how to, I'll explain to them what they have to do to continue. And this really helps them go faster forward and helps them to not give up. Because a lot of times people would give up otherwise. They will try different things. They don't know why they're not succeeding. It's a practice that's a bit invisible, and it's hard to know what you're doing wrong, what you're doing right, because you don't see something, you don't see clear signs maybe, or you don't know what to look for. So then it becomes difficult for you to know, and you need someone to actually tell you if you're doing the right thing, or if you are perhaps practicing in a complete wrong way and you're wasting lots of time and energy, and you should be practicing a different way because you're a specific type of person that maybe this method will work better for, or whatever. So it's a lot of there's a lot of details, a lot of work with the practice, definitely. And having a coach is what worked for me too. Like, I didn't learn this on my own. I didn't just like read a video or read a text online and then I just went for it. I don't think that would have ever worked for me, and I would probably have given up very quickly. It didn't work. If I read something somewhere, tried it, and then it didn't work, I'm like, oh, I guess this is not real. It's not working, and that was it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah, so yeah, coaching is like, it's very useful to have some insights.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we are going to end this episode with rapid fire questions, and those are more general questions. So if you had to keep one book, which one would it be?
Oh, that was a really hard question. Maybe the one that came up to me right now is the five love languages. It's called. Do you know it?
Yeah, I know it. Yeah. There's a quiz online, I think, if you want to know your love language.
What's that?
There is a quiz, in the internet, if you want to know more about it, to know about
really?
your love language. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well,
So-
it's the book is about it's about love language, on how your love language is, but also
Mm,
how maybe your partner's or other people's love languages, so that you can speak the same love language as they do.
yeah, pretty useful.
Yeah, useful things like that. I think that kind of books. But if, of course, if you're talking about astral projection, then I think William, no, William, Robert Monroe's books are really good because they really take you from the very basics of starting the practice and the skeptic sort of mind that you would have in the beginning,
Mm,
all the way to like really out there astral projections with meeting spirit guides and aliens. Like it really
yeah.
goes, it really takes you through a long journey of opening your mind slowly,
Mm,
and it's
yeah.
you can listen to it on Audible, which I love to do. I prefer to listen to books than to read
Mm.
them.
Especially about that, yeah. What practice can we do when we feel out of alignment?
Um, well, I think one of the things you want to do is escape your current reality by moving, um, taking some time off away from where you currently live. So going on vacation or just going out for the weekend from the city you live in, be in nature with yourself, be alone, reflect
Mm,
on
yeah,
on things.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
probably that's
Mm,
really powerful. Like
mm,
and being remove the noise, because a lot of times I think we get out of line, out of alignment with ourselves because we are getting so overwhelmed by the noise. What I mean by
yeah, in
noise
our
is
mind
just
too.
like what I mean by noise is just like there's so much stuff coming from all directions. There's you open the phone and there's a million things happening on Instagram, Facebook, and there's people saying this, people saying that. There's news on TV, there's people telling you this, there's
Mm,
signs on the street. There's so much information coming in that can start to sort of overwhelm you and scatter your perception, your consciousness,
yeah.
and you. It's very important in life to get a clear um, vision of where you're going, what you're doing. So it's sometimes it's important to just take a break from your current life routine, your bubble, and go away, go into nature, and just go for a walk. Usually that's what I do. I'll go for a walk and just really just try to piece myself together into
Mm,
what I'm actually, where am I going?
mm,
What's happening right now? And not just let life blow you around to different places without you stopping like, hey, wait, why am I going this direction? This is not what I wanted to go. I wanted to go, or where did I want to go? Like you really have to ask yourself,
mm,
where are you going? And also you have to ask yourself, why are you going there? What is it that makes you want to go that direction? Is it something to do with um, is it your own will? Is it something to do with expectations that other puts on you, or the society put on you? Why do you want to have that thing that you want to have? You have to ask those questions, because otherwise you can chase things that you
yeah.
realize wasn't even what you needed in the first place. So you really need
Mm.
to reflect with yourself a lot, and then make a decision, and then stick to that decision.
What is your mantra?
Don't really have a mantra other than um, maybe that I am more than my physical body, or that I am um, doing reality checks to see if I'm dreaming, these kind of things. I don't have
Yeah,
any specific meditation mantra.
yeah. What would you say to your younger self, like a 20-year-old you?
Oh, wow.
You got 2 hours.
I think I would say it's hard to, it would be hard to communicate it, but I think I would try to explain to my younger self that the things, the the quote unquote bad things that are happening to you are
Mm,
are not uh, bad things. They're actually things to teach you, or to move you in a specific direction.
to
Because
grow.
there's been a lot of times in my life where in the moment something happened that felt very bad, maybe, for example, I would get fired, I'll lose a job,
Mm.
some boss, I would have a problem with the boss in the visual effects industry. I'm getting along with someone, and I'll get fired, and it feels terrible, and you feel like a loser, and you feel, yeah, you feel bad, you feel really bad, and you worry about what's going to happen next. And literally every single time something bad like that happened, it always took me to a better place. It always took me
Mm.
to a higher manifestation of what I want to do.
Yeah.
And it was like a shortcut.
Yeah. Go
And in the
back to the
moment,
good road.
yeah, like sometimes you get, for me, like happened that I was getting comfortable in some companies. I just kind of, I guess this is life now. I'm just going to be working here for a while, and I don't want to. Yeah, I'm comfortable here, and then I get fired, and I'm like, fuck, I'm not comfortable anymore. Now I have to find another job, and I, find another job where I became a supervisor, where I had a higher position, more
Mm.
impactful
Yeah.
role, and that's essentially what I wanted to do. I wanted to work at a higher level, and so sometimes life pushes you out of your comfort zone, and it's in the moment
For
it
a good
might
reason.
appear like a bad thing, but looking at it further, look at the bigger picture, it
Mm.
usually takes you to a better place. So the message would have been to my younger self that, stay cool, stay feel okay with the big changing events happening. They're gonna take you to a better place.
Yeah.
Like, people worry free.
I love this question. And finally, where we can find you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook, and you can find me on my website, which I can put up on the screen if you want. Ta-da!
Ta-da!
So elasticperception.com. You can find me there. You can book a call with me there, um, and we can help you with. We can find out if there's something we can do for you to help you as project. The call is free, and that would be one way. Or you can add me on Facebook and write to me on Facebook, or you can email me as well. There's
Yeah, you're very available. That's great.
Yeah, I'm very available for the
Mm.
public right now. But you're probably going to have to hurry, because it's not going to be like that forever. As this grows, um, yeah, I'm going to be less available for
Yeah.
public.
So thank you so much, Florentin, for your time.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me on the show. I don't know how long this was, but it was great.
Yeah,
I hope
I think
the
1 hour
people
and
that
a
watch.
half.
Yeah, I hope the people that watched all of it, well done. You made it through. Yeah, and thank you for watching.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Tack för det.
Swedish. Yeah,
Yeah, a
thank
little
you
bit.
very
Yeah.
much.
Et merci en français.
Okay.
Yeah, 3
Gracias. Yeah.
languages in here. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Likewise. Thank you. Take care, Lena.